Hello, Americans. The anti-Trump news network has collusion/s and relative delusions. Both parties have them because campuses A through Z, although sickly non-distinctly too, campuses A through Z, every one of them has had self-added rules, replacing what James Madison and our founders had communicated regarding how we're actually supposed to appreciate the words of what people said and what was reported about it at the time. We were not supposed to leave out how every database was criminally foreign influenced, tactically delusions raw, slash hyper criminally foreign influenced. There was slavery roles, for example, as means to discern it, northern colonies and southern colonies, roles with even that. And then America's founders were born. And they had to leave it entrenched, not because they wanted nothing to do it, but we don't have our founders defend it. Instead, we have people pretending do things like pretending our presidents are the same thing as our founders. The only president that we know for a fact was our founder was James Madison. And they were all using his plan and the founders behind him, plural, and his plan. That enabled them to counter extort people at key locations, northern colonies and southern colonies, where internationally monitored conversations measured and maintained everyone an extent of collusion/s, syntactically, therefore physically against themselves and against everyone else. Otherwise, that body was sensed. And they also measured and maintained that everyone was sensing anybody who was not, even if it was a majority of people, and it was easily adapted to by the breaching method. It stayed entrenched right through not just America's founding, through the founding of every modern country. Before religious messengers were born, the campus marcia system of the republic for which we stand and its religion had become, the syntax of it became abridged from, there are proofs from off the locations. And increasingly since then, have been increasingly from off all campuses, have stayed criminally foreign influenced quality aspects in nature of collusion/s, right where no one wants it, Black pupils. No one wants, everyone, we can observe where there are exceptions made for you guys, and you make them for yourselves. With Black pupils' whites of eyes, communications by nature itself replaced. On top of that, what our founders communicated left declassified about how the breaching method had reassigned. When nature communicates with Black pupils' whites of eyes, when nature is not only itself as criminal insidiousness. This is one of the ways nature teaches us about natural law, not using St. Aquinas. They did not, when they interpret even like, the voices of the church, everyone's leaving out criminally foreign influenced collusion/s, otherwise that body was sensed. That's why we have to pay attention to the breaching method, a predicate acts with facts method, Black pupils. We are an individual species body made up of a whole bunch of individuals so that we could discern that which is generating this. Is generating totally different individual species bodies, each one of them made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. They have group differences like male, female, distinctly from ourselves, but non-distinctly. And simultaneously, but per that which is a further distinct identity of simultaneous nature. And this, in teaching it, is where the word God came from, as a variable, too, relative to how appreciation of it nature's way. It is functional where one identity of value progression is hyper invisible but still discernible as itself. For example, as that generating totally distinct individual species bodies of a whole bunch of individuals. And they're also non-distinct, the different species bodies. We have two eyes. We long hunger. We long food. We long water. We long beautiful nature. See, but we have been systems abridged from nature's, when nature's only also positive onto itself. And relative to Earth's temporary/lasting, a special difference. And appreciation of it here, or it is forced away from here. as a negative identity of relationship to itself and to the value of, or it's a concentrated, a special difference, where the human mind can be demonstrated to that we are right where it's about to be too hot, too cold. We are right where there is a special difference. We are right where we can discern its difference, generating all group differences, or demonstrating when we are or have been, or this is the moment we will be using systems abridged from its own. It demonstrates with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And a breaching method knew that nature would demonstrate that and would increasingly demonstrate to people A through Z. A human fact should be nature breaching method is one of the things that all these different things causing all these negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures are equally about. All those crazy laws against women, against the difference of women, no. Against the difference of native, no. Against the difference of the native tribes. And regarding motivations, this breaching method knew that nature would also show us a human fact should be nature breaching method is involved with the motivations of people and the people around them relative to where and to how we have Black people's rights of eyes. And this has stayed out from subjects it is inseparable from, like appreciation of the American Revolution, as is proper to be appreciated. The way we're not supposed to pretend the words that people said at the time were not measured and maintained. Fake free speech. Otherwise, that body would be sentenced. That's what the laws that were forced to do. They were part of a method that would measure and maintain everyone. An extent of syntactical collusion /s against themselves and against everything. That's what it is when you self-value. We could individually grouped in all together, every country of the human species body could agree to stay self-valued roles, let alone self-valued while being used remotely by a hyperforeign. This hyperforeign knew that it would have to keep everyone blaming others ourselves for things that nature demonstrates. Like how the suburbs were designed before America's founders were born for torture, extortion, and slavery method. The people at the time wanted to build better and safer, and an identity grounds, identity relationship to itself and the waters. That were forbid. The laws made it criminally foreign influenced to be speaking about infrastructure, building infrastructure outside of internationally monitored conversations, which I learned in notes at Central Connecticut State University. But if we pay attention, for example, the syntax in the books at the school book depository associated with reports on the assassination of President/Chief Kennedy in Texas. Across the country, school books depositories in the equivalent then and now and before that. This breaching method knew that they would contain quality aspects in nature and demonstration of collusion /s. Right where and how it showed everyone how to appreciate what our founders communicated by showing everyone how to use the words of what everyone said at the time. Self-valuing, having been left out while leaving out and aiming to lock, further left out what our founders actually communicated while pretending other. Oh, it's you're an expert. Oh, sue then. The courts already have collusion /testing them further with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices and other states equivalent, and the equivalent of colonial times. Other than and now is communicated for the founding locations. Then our founders left to be communicated for them. Forgiveness is because everyone will keep making this mistake /s and then cover-ups of it while having been used remotely, so involved with way worse than anyone could realize. And then once they start realizing it's too late, because in other words, this breaching method already employed names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, the interbranch names, the lawyers, their sources, their family members, people, their neighbors, conjunctions next to and or conjunctive to them. The difference of that too, because it exploited the way a trinity is being exploited. A trinity is three distinct identities of relationship to itself. An identity of hyper invisible but still discernible has. Per the science that English was revealed to teach, appreciating exceptions too. That nature shows us to appreciate because to stay being led by that which is hyper invisible but still discernible as itself, distinctly from how it is invisible but still discernible as itself. As the parts of speech of English grammar, the other languages, they have names, so they are about the invisible but still discernible. As subjects, therefore, the parts of speech. As verbs. See, we need more than one name for a verb, though, as a participle or as a predicate. A predicate is a main verb. What we are discerning with sentences, with communication, is not just the identity of relationship between the main verb and the rest of the sentence and the subject /s. It's that value nature system that we could be other, we could ignore even altogether, individually grouped or together. But it will demonstrate to us with individual finite, with grouped active, and with progressive increasing simultaneous demonstrations 3 ways. Connected. Know how nature's the identity of forever nature generating all things. How in other words, how it is showing us how its body has bound 3 parts of time to our perception. To an extent, we know that there is time that is gone, that is only increasing value, where value is value as nature / nature as value, and nature as value / value as nature, as it is actually manifest as we will observe. Vaccines, but makes us shush to hear, because the sciences share an identity. Boxing prefers the shush sound. Martial arts semi-prefer the shush sound. And wrestling does not prefer the shush sound. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling are about fighting, but by the rules. But the rules have been abridged since semi-ancient times. So the relativity of this, the means to appreciate it, has been worse than lost, because that was in that it consolidates self-value collusions with itself, right? Where no one self-values it syntactically, therefore physically. And the difference of the syntactical collusions or the physical collusion /s is also exploited, because this breaching method has to hide how it has been exploiting difference /s. And right where how that's recorded, it has been exploiting it through our own names A through Z as countries, and as the locations, areas, and states that could only operate the phenomenon of countries' names. Now being and having been appreciated as systems tactical ulterior from the one that is generating totally different individual species bodies of a whole bunch of individual bodies. So we could discern that we are distinct, non-distinct, simultaneous, for that which is also generating this as further a distinct identity of simultaneous nature that is part of and as us, while not. But anyway, further increasingly value here, or increasing as that increasing value force from here, as force space nature transfer, as a negative identity of relationship to itself. So we could ignore its system And rather, let alone self-valued roles, those are manifest because precedents and statutes, readings and appreciation has more so been shaped by the hyperforeign breaching method than it has by any name of any of the people of the sciences. The beginnings of the Old Testament and the beginning of the Quran, they come with parts up front that are like guides to the book, but no one even knows about them because it would change the nature of debates, and that would change the outcome of what we could discern, and that would bring up collusion /S, A through Z. See, that are manifest. Everything the breaching method did and does is through our own. At locations, areas, and states, everywhere the human species body is. You guys have self-valued roles, pretending things that are debatable that are not. Our founders left declassified why and how. They only had the security to declassify that, to let us know that James Madison was our founder. He's the only individual that we know for certain was our founder. Just because someone was a president or chief didn't make, we're supposed to be honest about the extortion of George Washington. No one allows even presidents /chiefs to be honest. All exceptions they use for it to hide that too. Because it was used remotely and shown, they're shown means to. So inside the nature of debate /S are quality aspects in nature that we can and will use. Just like there were, just like that was with the syntax at the school book depository. There are natures of agencies, A through Z, at countries A through Z, that do not have the sophistication that we are capable of having, even as little kids. Or if we were adults and we know all this about the law, how do we not have the sophistication there? There's sophisticated criminal and seditious natures of it. There are these principal treatments we have with black pupils, whites of eyes, with knowing that Native Americans were hurt by the same breaching method. We have means to sense it, and we knew it when we were kids, but then you are sensed because there are narratives and natures with the interbranch employed with the names of the people of the sciences, the names of the industries. We're not supposed to defend parts. For example, the Old Testament says only defend right here, where the names of the people of the sciences will come together, and the part that comes before it. And that becomes before the part with the tree of life and the knowledge of good and evil, and the generation of Adam and Eve, and Cain and Abel. See, now, everyone, like, we're not supposed to defend that part. I'm just going to note, though, it's about them using systems tactical ulterior from the one also positive unto itself, not as criminal and seditious natures of positive. And where and how it's different is generating all of their differences. It's like if you're part of your body wants to start using a system tactical ulterior than its own. In other words, we are shown with plant life, cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall /S, where the cell walls are all connected. But they are not just hollow. They are with gases and water appreciation coming through this and its own identity. And every identity has a semi-nature relationship to this identity of value progression that is generating totally different individual species bodies. So we could discern its individual identity of value progression, generating all group differences, or demonstrating that with that, when and how we are using systems tactical ulterior, other than its own, let alone tactical ulterior from it, let alone tactical ulterior from it and self-value collusion /S. and to an extent not even discerned at countries A through Z. This breaching method appreciated what our founders had to leave declassified for their communications, distinct from what they said, which they communicated. They left declassified. Don't use the words of what people said, leaving out the breaching method. How everyone had to pretend to an extent they had free speech or be censored. How that caused bad things. And how even though that caused bad things, others ourselves were blamed for those bad things because nature would demonstrate those things. Vaccines. There are things that are not debatable that are gotten away with being debatable because the Republican themed and Democratic themed voices of the law, the names of the people of the sciences were shown to appreciate how to appreciate their own syntax and that of others, including of our founders, through criminal foreign influences, tactically delusions, / hypercriminal foreign influences. For example, that which we could discern had slavery in northern colonies and southern colonies non-distinctly entrenched, and then America's founders were born. So there were roles with everyone hurting, no nature of unity, no nature of independence, syntax, therefore system capable of being anything other than measurable and maintainable, capable of being used remotely from abroad / hyper abroad, because this had and has leaders A through Z at countries A through Z, only capable of rising above locations, areas, and states, only capable of being and having been self-valued. Collusion / S, right where no one has collusions, too. So the perfect narratives regarding motives, because the breaching method has roles with the motives of people A through Z, and are relative to how people sense people when they're saying things like we know are true. The suburbs were designed tactically in nature, designed to be a landscape theater, while as an identity to nature's identity of relationship to itself, that is only capable of causing nature to demonstrate with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. A breaching method is and has been involved with all human potentials and syntax, therefore physics, regarding what unfolded as the suburbs, let alone as the cities. Honesty. See, they get away with this. Then they're shown they need to pretend things like voting means what it doesn't, and to pretend to be against that. See, there's something the breaching method measures. If one is pretending to be that America was about countering kings, they have to defend that. And they can't defend that without self-valuing criminally foreign influence, fact-cheating nature, quality, aspects, and natures of collusion / S, replacing what our founders communicated about how some left declassified, about how some ways their movement was to unify the other leaders with humanity's shared imposition / S. In other ways, it was to fight with them. But that's because locations, areas, and states are forcing leaders at countries A through Z, when it's not the leaders too at the same time, because that's under the style for entertain. Psychopath natures of calmness and psychopath natures of aggression regarding Black people's rights of eyes, or it would have been revealed that which would have healed as syntax, proper, pure vaccines. So Connecticut campuses know they have a number of people with medical corruption involved with Rocky Hill campuses, Wethersfield campuses, New Britain campuses. And these are families, foreign and domestic, involved with New Britain Superior Court, Harper Courts, their family members, their intimate ties, the district court, and people increasingly with the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it and to that. Exploited as ones involved with the World Trade Center attack, where that will be relative because we could discern their motivations and how they have been screening the breaching methods roles with their motivations. Please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB, and please slam your fists on the proverbial round tables and anti-net things and anti-Trump, this anti-Trump network. Please follow mandated law if you hear this. Respond. My name is Anthony Wall. I was next to the World Trade Center attack. The World Trade Center. I wasn't next to the attack. I was next to the World Trade Center towers the morning of the attack. And I left before the attack. And I was there the night before the attack. And I noticed people and things involved interstates and internationally with World Trade Center predicate acts before it, during it, and since. Now they're telling you guys to pretend people make conspiracy theories as they recorded collusion /S interagencies and interbranch and foreign at the same time, all sides of criminal civil cases, changing and faking what people said about predicate acts. Wethersfield police faked conversations with me at the police station when I was a kid and as an adult. Fake ties to me as a kid and as an adult. In other words. And with the news at the same time, interbranch putting fake sequence shifts, the fake transcripts. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, their family members, and their neighbors and other natures of conjunctions to them. The difference of them being their neighbors next to them or the conjunctions to them exploited, that's manifest that way. Per their roles with identity theft, fraud, slayers, on and off campus is connected. Each age and nature. This keeps whole careers criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Forgiveness is so we pay attention to, we only make guilt and blame if we're going to trace it relative to the breaching method, which is only discernible through collusion /S, black pupils. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, and can discern collusion /S, where and how this is left out, where the breaching method employed reassignments of what black pupils, whites of eyes communicate, and reassignments of what nature communicates with it, and assigned roles sensing anybody who tries to appreciate what nature communicates with it properly. That body was sensed, and it is adapted to, including if it is a majority of people, including it if it's any united country, any grouping of countries. It already had locations, areas, and states, styles of syntax, nature of syntax, community voice things. It could operate them easier than it could the individual countries. Syntax nature. See suits and ties, counters, exceptions. They have suburbs. Even the extorted, tortured, and factory nature enslaved people wanted to build better and safer. How people could get away with pretending that's debatable also comes with evidence /S. This is also relative to why and how they can't get on paper into branch. New Britain Superior Court, Harper Courts, and the District Court increasingly has collusion with a bunch of people from other areas that planted evidence on my street, with people at Harvard Hospital involved with their judges and prosecutors, and people that have been seating juries, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, interagencies, the names of the law, the names of the people of the sciences. They will be healed. You have to follow mandated law for them. Get me off the fake conversations with Channel 3 News, WFSB, about the World Trade Center attack. And while I caught them forcing child abusers, leaders of kids, and they know that's what the value of those acts were. That's why they're pretending. And there were a whole bunch of other things they had collusions with at the same time. Murders were at the same time. Untimely death collusions at Trinity College with the people that brought up intercities as the ones planting evidence on my street. Confessions too. No, people make confessions on my street years apart who are tied, and then they pretend they knew me, including I didn't even respond because I knew he was planting evidence because I had experienced that before. Increasingly, these are people that put fake things in databases at each campus I went, and then were influenced to make it look like I know them off campuses, so others can fill in fake things. I had no conversation verbally with a Ray Reynolds in Vermont. A Ray Reynolds or Joe DeMoro, they put fake things in databases with Middlesex Community College. And that was before I went there. They have FBI Director Robert Luskin. They have state police Whiting Forensics and from Connecticut involved with state police interstates. A whole bunch of people tied to a Mike Roberts and an Eric Jensen have the FBI, the CIA, and state police involved with predicate acts with facts, federal evidences, crimes. You know, other countries involved with them too. And all the countries involved with the World Trade Center. On a mass scale, people value directions and rights to lie and to hide things that are not even like how really our countries are shared at and next to campuses and conjunctions to the difference of that or conjunctive to the campuses. All this is recorded relative to why and to how the news has been motivated to pretend others recorded by planting evidences and collusion /s at and next to all natures of crime scenes and campuses. They have Whiting Forensics involved with digital crimes with Facebook and Twitter with upskirt pictures with the FBI, wire crime acts and methods with the FBI, medicines, drugs, crimes, and relative delusions of the FBI, of the CIA, and of the interbranch, increasingly hyper additionally at the state corrections offices and judicial offices, and names next to and or conjunctive to that, and the differences of guilt there. That is exploited at other locations /s. That's recorded too. Ugh. Fix the fake news. Watch what's recorded.